Hello and welcome to UPfront. My guest today is the national chairman of the governing New Patriotic Party. I'm sure you know he's been in parliament for a very long time, and you might be aware of his political trajectory too. What you didn't know is his connection to the 1982 killing of the judges. I'll tell you more about that after this break. You're welcome back. This is UPfront. My name is Raymond Akwa. My guest, as I did tell you, is the national chairman of the New Patriotic Party. Chairman Fred Blay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I hope you are doing well.
Mr. Kwei.
I mean, much has not been heard from you or your office after the very wonderful battle you went to and you came out victorious.
Thank you.
Yes, the indications was that you would by now be apologizing to, Toby Afed a long time ago, but we didn't hear anything from that.
I don't want to go into that. I don't think I owe anybody any apology, and I would prefer I don't even talk much about it.
Brilliant. Now, there's a question that matters more. I'm sure people knew when you were in Parliament. They knew you, the lawyer. They knew you, the parliamentarian, the very positions you held in Parliament, virtually to the pinnacle of Parliament. They also knew your political career. But what were you in 1979?
The whole year of 1979,
yes,
or
just
specifically
before the uprising.
Just before the uprising, I had to go and visit my big brother who was then living in Italy. I was there for about 4 months in Italy.
Oh, okay.
So when specifically the event of 1979 took place, I was not in the country, but I came back during the process.
Were you expecting it?
I wouldn't say I was expecting. It was a coup d'etat. Nobody was expecting any coup d'etat. At that time, a lot of rumor before then going around about some disaffection all over in the country, difficulties, and then the corruption that people were talking about within government circles and hardships in the country. This was going on, but nobody expected that there was going to be such an uprising. I wouldn't say. I definitely expected it.
Before that particular uprising, there was an interesting development. Ejampo's very unpopular Unigov government and proposal he put forward. Did you oppose it too? Was you one of those who thought it was not going to make any headway?
Oh, definitely I was not in favor of the Unigov concept. And I was part of those who opposed it, and indeed went round also, to campaign for a no vote against it and so forth. But it took place, and the government announced that by some small margin, the yes vote for the Unigov had gone on, and we accepted it as it was.
Rawlings, at a point in time after 79, became the ruler of the country.
Before then, let me bring you back, there was an attempt. The attempt was a failure.
The May 15th?
The May 15th.
Okay.
Yes. The May 15th had taken place. And indeed, Flight Lieutenant Rawlings and those who were involved in the putsch were arrested, and there was a trial also for their mutiny or so in Burma camp. I think that was what went on. That was a precursor to the outbreak of the June 4th. But in that atmosphere, of course, there were people who sympathized with the attempt to overthrow the regime, the junta then. But nobody expected that it would go that far, and then its implementation would be that violent, and that's what happened.
Were you one of those who were out there saying, let the blood flow?
I wasn't. I was not part of the let the blood flow. Although, I must be honest, I was happy that the government then, the military government, had then been overthrown. We thought the arrangement for a civilian government was almost through, left with about 3 months for it to take effect, and then, of course, it came on. Some describe it as a house cleaning. The soldiers described those who were involved, considered it that the soldiers who were involved in the coup or who were involved in government who had compromised the institution of the military and other institutions as well. And therefore they embarked on, so they claimed, that exercise to clean the institution and all, and maybe punish or bring to justice those who have been involved in various acts of corruption. Of course, people welcome it. I must say that I was one of those people, a young man as I was then. We all welcomed that. It was good to punish those who were involved in it to some extent, but it went a little too far.
I will talk to you about the excesses of the period. I mean, because you've mentioned that twice. It looks like there was an expectation that this should happen, a good change from what used to be the military's control over the period, and the insanity with which some of these things have happened over the time. But you draw the line and make a mention of excesses, that they went overboard, that they actually went to the point that many did not expect. We'll talk more about that. But at some point in time, the man came in. The man won a legitimate election. Were you surprised by the second coming of George Rawlings?
Naturally, I wasn't expecting it. It was the second coming. Many people didn't expect it, and definitely I thought that was a change. If you clean the house and give people time to come into government, and election had taken place, fair elections, and one party had won and was in power. We thought we could give it time because the democracy was taking root. And you will remember that there was even in Parliament, a vote was taken over a budget, and the budget failed. Yeah. It means, therefore, though that government had some slim majority, some people in the government even did not vote for it. Some people in Parliament for the party did not vote for it. We thought that was a good beginning for parliamentary democracy and good governance. But lo and behold, the coup took place. What was referred to as a revolution, second revolution, took place, and government was overthrown. We had a military government again, this time not for 3 months, not for house cleaning, but
for a provisional 10-year period.
10 years, long time.
That's interesting to know. Now, did you know anybody who happened to have been a casualty of the 79, between 79 and 81?
Well, we knew all those who were involved, who were killed. There was a champion lost his life.
Yeah, I'm talking about personally, people that you were connecting directly with, people that you knew and could call and talk to.
No, at that time, I wouldn't say that those who were at the helm of affairs, but of course I knew a champion. He was then one time a secretary or a minister, I would say regional minister in Takoradi. I personally knew him, and I was a young boy at that time. But beyond that, those who were involved, Feli and Co. and so, we knew them. I was then a student leader.
Oh, okay.
You was one time as in 1977.
That was Nooks, right?
I was SRC president, but part of Nooks. I was first vice president of the Nooks, because by virtue of my being the SRC president, then the Nooks leadership will then come to Legon. But by that time, when you are SRC president,
you are automatically
first vice. Okay. But therefore, we had some kind of dealings with members of the government. We went to Birmingham, and sometimes when we were on, we have had we went on some campaigns, some strike actions and so forth, demonstrations. We were called to the Birmingham.
That was the headquarters of the PNDC?
PNDC then at that time. Not PNDC at that time. It was NRC then. So we dealt with them one-on-one and sometimes collectively. So we knew them.
I see.
Those who were, at the end of the day, shot or killed after the 79. And that's all I can say.
Okay, I get your point. Yes. Now, the understanding of what really happened beyond this period, the 81 period preceding that, how did the revolution fare in your understanding of it?
Well, the revolution, not to call it revolution, of 1981, of course, some of us felt casualties in the first week or a couple of days, the first
Really?
month. Me and some few friends were arrested along with other people. At that time, it was...
In what capacity were you arrested?
I was a friend of some young men who were then members of MUNAS, the June 4th movement, MUNAS and a few others.
Oh, June 4th movement. Okay.
Yes, they were June 4th movement boys. But of course, 81, they were not part of the June 4th movement. MUNAS, Kokubako, a good friend of mine, Adulabi, is now late.
The CPP's Adulabi?
Yes, Adulabi is now late. Kwesi, my next door neighbor now, a very good friend. A few of them, they were even younger than I was.
Okay.
They belonged to the MUNAS. And then, lo and behold, in February, on the 4th or 5th February, they were arrested. They were looking for them to arrest. Kofi Kuku Baku was with me. He'd gone to my house in Takoradi. They wanted him. One way or the other, somebody had betrayed them that
I see.
They were against the revolution, and somewhere they were finding themselves out, maybe to go and organize against the revolution. And Kukubaku definitely was with me in my house in Takoradi. I was in Accra here. So they arrested me here and took me to Takoradi.
To go and show?
Go and bring Kukubaku.
Okay.
In fact, they said if they had not found him, they would have shot me.
Oh, interesting. That's what they told you?
Yeah, that's what they told him.
And you know who led the arrest?
Yes, Katapore and Awar and a few others. Then there was Sergeant Awar, if I knew him. They came to arrest me. And from my house, give us a little beating, I must say.
They beat you up?
Quite excessively. You know,
oh, wow.
They took me and a few others. My younger brother was down with me where we were, but they put him in Nima police station. He and my cousin, Cabral, whose house we were living in, put him in Nima police station. But me, they took me to Takoradi, to my house in Takoradi. I was a practitioner, a legal practitioner in Takoradi, but I used to come to Accra very often. So they took me there. Fortunately, they saw Kukubaku. But instead of leaving me, they brought me back also and then put me in guard room. But
was it true? Were you gentlemen in both MUNAS and also the June 4th movement opposed to the revolution at the time?
I was not even a member of the MUNAS, but
not at all.
They were my friends.
Okay.
Yes.
By association, you had to be.
Yes, yes. Yeah. I was not part of the planning of any.
But is it true that you were opposed to the revolution?
The revolution, I was not in favor of the revolution.
You are not?
I wasn't in favor of the revolution.
I see.
So, but it had taken place. So
your only responsibility was go and show us where Kukubaku is, right?
That they understand I'm harboring Kukubaku,
okay,
who was not even declared a fugitive from justice, but that he was running away from Accra, maybe to go and reorganize or come and oppose. But I believe some friends of Kukubaku themselves being maybe informants to then the PNDC did that. So they came to arrest me. And then there were about 5 of us who were arrested and put around the whole country, various guard rooms.
Let me be clear. So if your only role was to go and show us where Kukubaku was, why were they still keeping you?
I wish Katapori would be asked to give an answer. I know he's still around in Accra here, and I haven't met him since then. Okay. But he came to arrest me, and therefore he says he's been given instructions to do so. But I had to spend a year.
A whole year?
A whole
So
year.
the entire 81?
Yes. 82.
82?
Yes.
You spent it in jail?
In jail. Partly in Ho, first in a 4 empty guard room in Accra, then sent to Ho for 7 months, and brought back to Asha for the rest until in early 83 that I was released.
How was the experience like?
In prison?
Yes.
Of course it was not pleasant. Prison was horrible, yes. Particularly in Ho, where at that time there was famine, in Ghana. A lot of death in the prison. I could see people who were emaciated, very hungry. The jails were full. You know, if you go to the rooms of the prisons, you see that where it could take only about 150, you know, they were taking about 300 or 400 and so forth. You know, they overcrowded.
There was massive congestion.
Overcrowded. And diseases, and you know, you had some kind of, you know, I wouldn't say bedbugs, but some form of bedbugs all over. Yes. They had to come and even clean, spray, but still, I don't know whether these days it's still there, but it was a horrible experience, I must say. We survived it.
Okay. Were you just in prison, or you were being maltreated even in prison?
In prison, I wasn't maltreated as such, except that you had no access to any good food there. And of course, prisoners were eating the same food, boko and one-way food. You know, boko, when you don't have fish, you have no protein, nothing else.
Oh, what? Just the carbohydrates?
Carbohydrates. And some light soup. They used leaves to make. No, it wasn't. I don't want to even recall those days. I sometimes thought I would die in prison, but I survived it.
Was that bad?
It was that bad. It was that bad.
So why were you released?
When?
Why?
Why? It was announced that some political prisoners are being released, and I was released. That's all.
Were you still engaged when you were in prison? As in, do you have access to counsel? Were you prepared for court? Were you being given the basics of having to deal with
We were
a prisoner?
political prisoners. There was nothing of that sort. We were in prison. But you see, I didn't stay in whole prison for that long, only 7 months.
7 months.
And I came down to Asherford. Asherford was a little, so far as I'm concerned, was a hotel. We were there. Compared to Ho. And therefore, you had friends who were also political prisoners, came to meet previous government officials who were still being held in prison in Asherford. Therefore, you had a camaraderie sort of existence there. And you could play draft, you could walk around. It was a big compound. You know, you could do all kinds of things. And people, you could even have a few visitors. And sometimes we had access to prepare our own food and so forth. So far as I'm concerned, it was okay. And then the rooms were a little better than what I was used to in Ho. So I wasn't too disturbed. And therefore, I even told my relatives, and then my wife now, who was then a girlfriend, that you shouldn't worry. I'll survive. After Accra, I will survive, and I did.
Interesting. When you were in prison, there was a jailbreak, right?
At that time, there was a jailbreak, yes, I know.
Yes, but you didn't leave at that time.
No, we didn't leave at that time.
But there were some who took advantage of that.
Some took advantage and left. But
who are the people that you were in jail with, especially in Asherford?
In Asherford, we had, interestingly, we were there when Katapara was brought there.
Himself, the one who arrested you. So I see.
He was brought with a few others.
And you became inmates with?
Well, we were in different rooms, but
I see.
We were in the some portion of it, and they were somewhere else. But definitely we met in the yard of the prison.
Did you engage him?
I didn't engage him that much. He said it was not his fault that we hadn't been released earlier. But he mentioned Koyochikata's name, that was so forth. I was also with some people who had been arrested. Amartey.
Oh, I see.
Who incidentally was involved in the
abduction and murder of the judges.
I also was in prison with Amartey Kwei, who was also involved, supposed to be the mastermind of the murder of the judges, and a few others who were also involved, who had been arrested. I had among the military intelligence operatives who had been arrested, soldiers. I met some of my very good friends in prison, who are still remaining.
So to be clear, in those times, prison really was known for vagabonds. the very political elites, the people who were running affairs at the other time, you could be very relevant at one point in time, and within the next few months or weeks or later on, you will be in jail.
I don't want to put it that way, but definitely when there was a change of government, some of us were put in prison. And it's not only that, but those who were involved in the PNDC and so forth, and some of them also fell out of favor, or maybe found themselves to be undermining, if I should call it, or sabotaging. Then the government, so to speak, found themselves arrested and put in prison. And that's what Katapori and Kwei so
became part of those who were also in prison.
Of course, Amartey was part of the
government. Was actually one of the few named PNDC members.
Yeah, he was a PNDC member. And because of the murder of the judges, also found himself in Usherford. So if you want to describe it that way, that today you could be in power, the next day you could find yourself.
That's interesting.
The revolution used to eat its own. That's what
it consumed its own.
Consumed its
own. Now, let me get this clear. What was your appreciation of what happened in connection with the abduction and the murder of the judges? To be fair, you might have been in prison at that time.
Yes, of course. I'm a lawyer. And come to think of it, it's not because I'm a lawyer, but if some people are in their houses, in the offices, or in the houses at dawn or late in the night, are dragged from their houses and murdered, and that's horrible. It's something that you can't justify under any circumstance, because even they have been involved in any matter, it could have been tried, but it was pure murder, And to me, there is no way you can. There is no other way you can describe that. It was not good. It was horrible, and those who were involved, are murderers, pure, and they should be treated as such.
Now, there was a demand for you to represent Amartey Kwei.
And I put it this way. You see, after there had been some kind of investigation, and as I said, and people have been arrested, like Amartey and coup, and then before they were arrested, a committee was set up to investigate that murder and so forth. There was
the special investigative board.
And then it happened that some people were arrested. One who was involved, I met him. I don't know whether he's still alive. A very nice police officer who was involved, Idana.
Yes.
Who was involved in it. He did a very good job. And at the end of the day, he was even also arrested and put in prison for whatever reason. I wouldn't.
They say he was a spy. He was harboring a spy.
I don't know much about that, but I have a feeling, I was convinced that it's because of the role he played in the way he investigated and the role he played in the investigation.
Because it was after he had submitted his report, and the report sought to indict some people, that was when it became problematic for him to still be carrying out his job.
Yes. I think the whole story will one day be told properly. But what happened is that because of that investigation, Amartey then was with us in prison.
Okay.
Yes. We spoke with him. I was with Amartey in Usherford for some time. Before then, he had been in Koforidia prisons.
I see.
We spoke with Kuku, then was in Koforidia. And therefore, Kuku knew the story. He told the story of what happened to Kuku. When he came to Usherford, also, he repeated the same story. Some of us got engaged with him.
I'll come back to you. I will seek to appreciate the story as he told you from his perspective after this break. We're still on Upfront here. You welcome back. This is Upfront. My name is Raymond Alkwa. My guest today is the governing New Patriotic Party's national chairman. Now, today, we have done the crux of our conversation around the happenings in 1982. And more importantly, this is a man who spent prison time with one of the people who was found guilty and yet absconded from jail along the line and was supposed to have been held responsible for the murder of these judges. Chairman Fred Blay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was before we went on break, I asked you to hold on in telling us exactly from America's perspective as related to you and others in prison, what really happened concerning the abduction and the murder of the judges.
Let me be very, very honest with you. I did not engage him that much because a lot of people were around in it, but it was not the only one who was with us.
Yeah.
Tekpo.
Tekpo too.
There was another young man.
You mentioned Amartey at first.
Amartey was there
yeah.
with us and so forth. And we were all prisoners.
Okay.
Therefore, we interacted. Indeed, I even played draft with the. I was not too good at it, but I played a little.
It's interesting.
With the people didn't want to associate
with him.
With those people who had been. As for this young man, Akatapori, he didn't stay long. That was later on. So they took him away somewhere else. But those people who were involved in the murder, at first they didn't, when they came in, the trial had not gone on. People have not found much, but they told us their side of the story in mournful numbers, as to what really took place, who were involved, how they did it, and so forth. And that they were asked only to do that. They were only implementing others that had to be. They mentioned the members of the PNDC who were involved in it, But I don't want, because of this interview, I don't want to go too much into the details. But they told us that they were only implementing some decision that had been taken, that some of such people, it was shock treatment of some people who had, according to what they were briefed, had messed up with the revolution, earlier revolution, and had interfered with the decision that were taken and so forth, and therefore they were punishing them. Okay. That's what they did.
Let me be clear. So they were denying being masterminds of the entire activity?
They didn't say they were masterminded.
They said they were carrying out instructions?
Yes, they were carrying instructions. A boy like Tekpo and Jandu, who was there. Jandu was a happy-go-lucky young man who had misbehaved in the army, had even been asked to leave the army, and had gone to Germany, had come freshly married, joined the revolution out of overzealousness and so forth. And therefore, he was also asked to take part. He said he knew nothing. He didn't know the judges. He didn't know anybody else. He was asked to go and do it. And that is then a few sections and so forth. He mentioned that they even were involved in the abduction of one Yeye boy in Kwei, who was a juju man of some sort.
The priest then?
The priest, yes.
Because prior to this incident of the judges being abducted,
yes.
Prior to that, there was some abduction of some traditional priests in this case. Fetish priests, you may want to call them.
Yes, they call him Yeye boy.
And they were dealt with in a similar manner, like the judges were dealt with.
Yes, they were sent to go and undertake an operation, so to call it. So they did it. And therefore, so far as they were concerned, they were innocent. They were innocent soldiers who were asked to do what they did, and therefore they did it. That those who were masterminding, those who did it, who asked them to, took the decision to do that, and were a bigger man and so forth. But we told them, tell your story. Go and tell your story. Because if they don't speak out, if they don't tell their story to the public and tell it to only a few of us and so forth, they will end up being killed. They will end up being sacrificed for it.
Which happened to some of them, to be clear.
And it did.
Did they mention specific names of those?
I don't want to. Some of them did, but I don't want to. Some people have not been indicted and still walking about, and so forth. They were mentioned. Indeed, I had a friend of mine whose name came out prominently, that he was also involved in going to show where the judges lived and so forth and so on. And he was a very fine gentleman that I knew. Worked closely with Amartey, and Amartey mentioned his name, I do remember.
I see.
I came up and he collaborated, but he lived in fear. I don't know what has happened to him
This
now.
friend is who specifically?
I don't want to talk much about
okay,
it.
now
I don't know where he is now.
Okay, I see.
He lived in fear of what happened and what. But he was so apologetic, you know. He lived full of contriteness. The role he played in those places. I think the full story.
So you became very good friends with Amartey Kwei?
In prison, I was for a while.
Yeah.
Yes, I was. Because he was a friend of my brother, my bigger brother.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Because this request that said that, I mean, before the public tribunal,
Yes.
Amartey Kwei had refused counsel from other groupings and insisted that he wanted you, lawyer Fred Blay from Takoradi, to be the one representing him.
Yes, it was, he did it. When I had come out and he was being, he requested that I should, because at that time, lawyers were not, the Bar Association had boycotted
the public tribunal.
And when he requested that I should come and do that, his parents or his relatives came to see me, that I should come and represent him at the tribunal. In fact, because of my knowledge and what he's told me and what I knew.
In jail.
And then what he appreciated, you know, my dealings, that I somehow was sympathetic to some of the things and so forth. And I knew that he was not indeed the mastermind as it was made, as we were made.
He told you that?
Of course, I believed him.
He was,
told me.
but you believed him?
I believed him.
Was he candid?
Very, very candid with me.
But people say things to defend themselves all the time.
No,
Did it sound to you like this was somebody who meant what he said?
I questioned him. I definitely had time. Indeed, that's one place that people are sometimes very frank. In prison, when they are dealing with their friends,
because they have nothing to lose, really.
They tell the truth of what they have led. In fact, there was one young man who I had defended when I was a young lawyer in Takoradi. Okay. I was convinced he had not committed a murder, but somehow we couldn't get him out. We thought we could even do so on appeal. And I met him in Osherford when I was, and he came to me to remind me that I defended him.
Oh, I see.
Then I sat him down to tell me the truth. What happened? He told me, yes, he did it. They were involved in the murder.
Oh, okay.
He gave me the reason why they did what they did. I was shocked. But as I said, in prison, when you ask people, they tell you the truth of what they've been involved in. And Amartey Kwei was truthful to me, said a few things. We asked him if what the story he told me was corroborated by Jandu and the others, you know, how they were brought together to go and do what they did. And so I think in prison, people are frank. Of course, sometimes some can keep their secret to death, but in his case, he was frank. Now, going back to your question, he asked me to come and defend him. And I thought obliged to go and do so. But I was a member of the bar. The bar says we should not go. Did I got in touch with the executive of the bar that, I feel like I want to go and do that, irrespective of the kind of thing that we've also decided. Because the man was my friend, and he asked specifically that I should come and do it. But I said, well, if you want to go, that's your own problem. So I thought I was discouraged. I couldn't go.
You couldn't go?
I couldn't go.
But it's true, but I've heard George Adekum, who was the chairman of the public tribunal, he's told me, I've had an interview with him.
You did?
Yes.
Yes.
He told me.
He engaged me.
Yes, he told me in Konongo that.
That's right.
200 other lawyers, members of the Bar Association, had appeared before him in one way or the other.
That's right.
And he felt that if you failed to appear before him, you were not doing your duty as a lawyer.
As a lawyer.
Who had responsibility to represent people, especially when these people were without representation. Well, in a murder case.
That's a good point that is made, but we belong to an association, and they were not that they don't want people to be represented, but they say that the tribunal was not following the ethics of the law, and that they were not properly set up, and those who were involved and called to become judges had not been trained in the way that they should be trained. That justice was not served at that tribunal, and it was a protest action, protest position that were taken. They expected all self-respecting lawyers not to appear before the tribunal.
Mindful of the fact that this was the only reason his his only defense in his entire life was the one before the public tribunal. Do you regret not representing him?
I wouldn't say that I regret, but I thought I could have done him a very good service. Sometimes looking back, I think it's unfortunate, but I don't say I regret, because here I am. I am a member of my own professional body.
Okay.
I come from a background where I come from a chamber that upheld the good traditions of the law and so forth. And when the bar, all of us have met and decided that this is not the best way to go about it, and therefore we should refrain from appearing before it. I thought it's my obligation as well to observe it, and I did so.
On hindsight, do you think the public tribunal was the right forum?
Absolutely no. Absolutely no.
The argument was that if these gentlemen were put before the normal courts, these normal courts were likely to be biased because they were purported to have killed judges and their colleagues who will sit on these cases. And that's the argument from Judge at the coup.
No, I think that I don't agree. I disagree. Murder was murder. If you kill a judge, that doesn't mean that because you kill a judge, you must be condemned. If you have a very good defense, or if you didn't do it, they will find a way of convicting you. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. That's because definitely some judges commit some offense. They are brought before judges, and then they are tried, convicted, or acquitted. It depends. So I wouldn't say that it's a class issue, that those who are involved, about 3, 5, 10 people involved in that, the judges will go into the matter. Lawyers will defend you. Evidence will be taken. Agreement will go on. The law will be applied. So I don't believe that. That's indeed, it was not good to set up a tribunal. The tribunal system was set up as against the. Some people even thought they will, as it were, dismantle the judicial system and so forth. Something of that sort happened. Yeah. People went to the courts and closed them down. But of course they came back, they realized that they're part and parcel of our legal system and so forth. So I don't believe that the setting up of it had any good justification. But
mindful of the fact that these gentlemen were put before courts, these tribunals to be specific, on cases that related to murder, do you think that justice was served to the gentlemen?
Well, as I said, I didn't believe that justice
could be done by the tribunal.
Real justice. In some cases they did, I will say that, but it was some kind of kangaroo court, if I could say so. Kangaroo court, and they saved no end of justice. For the rule of law was turned upside down.
So would it have been wrong for them to have been then executed?
Well, I don't want to pass judgment over that, because they were found guilty, and some, even ordinary court, sometimes some people could be convicted, sentenced, or even executed, and later on evidence may turn up that they were not involved in it. Some innocent people have been killed, and some very guilty people have found their way out. But in this case, the tribunals were handled in a very, bad way, I must say.
Okay.
It was not the best one.
Now, interestingly, see the trajectory. First, police sought to do investigation. Then the Special Investigation Board took up the investigation from the police, presented a report, asked that 10 people be put before court. Now, these 10, half of them were put before the public tribunal. Then they were actually found guilty along the line and ought to be prosecuted in the final throes of it. The last attempt we tried to reopen and look at this matter was during the National Reconciliation Commission. And the National Reconciliation Commission says it was not a judicial committee. It was not a court to find people guilty or make pronouncements that sort of suggest that you were guilty of an act, left or right, or you were to be prosecuted in one way or the other. From the trajectory I've just given you, do you think that we've gotten to the bottom of this matter to do with who really killed the judges, who masterminded the killing of these judges?
From my position at the moment, you've listened to me. I've told you what my position on the matter is, and my little knowledge of what happened in terms of its depth and so forth. And I'm saying that the story is not yet fully told. But definitely, we didn't go to the bottom of it. Quite a number of people who were involved still walking about freely, as far as I'm concerned.
Is it too late?
Well, crime does not...
There's no statute bar on it?
It's not,
okay.
Not bad, but it's crime. And I'm hoping that maybe some people one day will even tell their own story. Or if people find it appropriate at the appropriate time, maybe some will go into it and then we will see to the end of it. But it's not only in Ghana.
Yeah.
It's not a fact. There had been several instances all over the world. That
so it's very possible that this issue we may never get to the bottom of it.
It is possible. It's possible.
What do you think can be done to get to the bottom of this matter? What do you think can be done?
It's as I told you, that it depends. Depends on the political atmosphere. It depends on the existence. It depends on somebody coming out to tell his own story.
Okay.
Coming out, some people. In fact, as I talk to you now, we don't even know where Amartey is.
Yes, he was never executed.
He left. He was among those who broke jail, and some say he's living in Togo. Some say he's in Nigeria.
Let's say he comes to Ghana sometimes
some
and
say
leaves. Yeah.
Maybe he's even done some facial. What is it?
I see some change.
Yes.
Constructive surgery.
Surgery to place also. It depends. Maybe he will be part of it. It's not the only one. There had been in an instance where a member of my party in the north, one chairman in the Upper East was killed. The one was involved is run away. We've still not found him.
Yeah, there's a gentleman too.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's not yet been found.
Yeah.
You know, such cases sometimes come around. Such events take place. Some such mysteries may not even find solution, but this one may remain part of our burdens, on our conscience of this country.
Well, some have said, and I've heard some say, including Karabe Fadate, that there is somewhat required a finality that ought to be put to this matter. And he thinks that the best way to put this matter to a finality is a different probe, which will suggest to him that the people who were suggested for prosecution and yet were not prosecuted way back during the SIB's time ought to be put before court, so that either they are cleared or they are finally put in jail.
That's an opinion.
Yeah.
It's been expressed, but
do you support it?
I will not look back and go into that. I want to look forward.
Okay.
You to not bring back those people who were there, but of course justice may then be served. The end of justice may be served, but I will not look too much sleep over it now.
Okay, I see.
I want reconciliation. That's why we put up the reconciliation committee.
I have a question to you on that directly. You, after all that happened to you, did not petition the commission, the National Reconciliation Commission.
Yes.
Why?
Well, compared to others, what happened to me pales into significance.
I see.
Some lost their life. Some brutalized, lost their jobs. Some went into exile and died in exile. Some had their property seized and so forth. Some put in jail for a longer period. Even mine was only a year.
I see.
Kokubakun was for more than 2 years.
Zidana was almost a decade.
Came and died, a miserable man. My friend Kwesi spent 2 years. I was older than he is. Spent more than 22 months in prison. and some were terribly brutalized and so forth. And some people went to the reconciliation. For example, Kwei went to the reconciliation committee to give his account and so forth.
So you didn't feel that there was a need to do so?
I thought it's been done. I thought, thank God we went through, and it's part of my own personality, built me. I remember the prison days and so forth.
Have you forgiven those who put you in jail?
Totally forgotten about it. I haven't forgotten, yes, but I've forgiven anybody.
So you can have dinner with them?
I don't mind doing that at all. I speak with some of them. I've met with some of them. The only person who shies away sometimes and has run away and I haven't seen him is Akatapore.
I see.
The way they treated me, he and the other friends, the way they, they physically maltreated me and so forth. But those who even betrayed us, those who got their friends betrayed and got me in prison, I know they are walking about. They are my friends.
Oh, they are friends today. Yes. I see. You are very forgiving then. Yes. Now, let me ask you this question. There are those who are pinpointed to two individuals. Some have said that in his capacity as chairman of the PNDC then, Chairman Rawlings, and also in his capacity as advisor, and sometimes who dealt with security matters, Captain Kojo Chikata, there ought to be a very specific response and proof from their end on these matters of the killing of the judges. Do you think so?
Well, this is a dicey question. I don't want to just go and pick one person now and deal with him that you alone, you should tell me what it is, particularly when he was not brought before. He gave his evidence, for example, Kojo Chikata gave his evidence and so forth. He was not prosecuted. And I don't want to go back to say that him alone we should go. It's a vendetta, vindictiveness. I will prefer. I don't want to go back into that. See. Finding myself here as part of, as a chairperson of a political party still in government and so forth. I want to look to the future. I see. I want to have this country united. I wish what happened in the past should not be repeated. Should we say goodbye to what, we should say goodbye to ethnicity, goodbye to, this kind of favor to have people punished, particularly when we do so to come and repeat those same things. We shouldn't do that.
I'll ask you about being chairman of the NPP some years, a couple of months into being substantive chairman. There's a difference, I'm told. But let me ask you this direct question. Maybe wrap up that conversation with this question. There are those who are of the opinion that as we move forward, we need to consider the indemnity clauses in our constitution to be able to put history properly.
Yes. I was a time I held that view, very much so, that if you don't feel guilty, you don't get yourself indemnified. Those who have taken part in coups, and therefore when they come out and they want to bring in, usher in a new constitutional dispensation, then they go and insert into the constitution clauses that indemnify them and so forth. I think it's not good. We should expunge them, not because we want to go back and deal with those who have been involved in those either atrocities or breaches of the constitution and so forth. But to me, it should be some kind of, it should deter people. Because the deterrence.
Because currently, we are still in the constitutional review process. We've not concluded it. Do you think it ought to be removed?
I would have loved to have it completely expunged from the constitution. Not so much as to get people tried or...
As to do retroactive?
Yes. But as a deterrence for those who would like to undermine the constitution, that they can't protect themselves with some kind of indemnity clauses in the constitution in the future. It's not good. Why do you say that you are indemnified from the wrong thing that you do? If you did them with good conscience, if you did them with justification, if what you yourself believe were right, you undertook to do them, why do you have to cover yourself with them?
Before I end this conversation, we understood that you delivered the first set of buses to the various constituencies. Has the rest of them gone to them yet?
No, we haven't delivered them. They are in the warehouses. We are what do you call it, branding them and so forth. The rest
Do we have all the 275?
We bring all the 275.
When are they going to the constituencies?
When we are set, we will announce.
Is there a date for it?
There hasn't been any date for that, but we will do it. We promised it that we are going to. Some even thought that we stole money for it.
Yes,
some even.
It's been said before that there's no way you could have gathered the amount of money within the space.
It's a question of which way. It's a question of saying that I have repeatedly said that I, Freddie Blaze, sitting here, have not put my hand into my pocket to bring 11 million. But this country, some people want to build a factory. They don't go and work their life and go and build a factory. Buses have been brought by individuals, by companies, by groups who have gone to bank for banking facilities to do that. If I do that, if I and some friends decide that we go to a bank, existing bank in this country, that help us, these are our proposals. Look at it. It's feasible. You can make money within 2 years, pay you, comprehensively insure the vehicles and so forth. Let us have the bus and send it around and let our people work for it and so forth. If they agree and give us such facilities, extend to us such facilities, is it a crime? Is that what nobody wants?
When are you paying
in this
back?
Country?
When are you paying back?
It is part of the feasibility, it's part of the proposal we've made, that maybe within 2 years, at most 2.5 years, you've paid back. If you do that, I'm even shocked. A media man would even ask, how you're going to steal the money? You are chairman of GMPC, and that's maybe part of the money. You go to the bank to go and squeeze the arms of the MD or so to give you that money for you to go and buy the buses. People have made all kinds of, what is it?
Allegations.
Not outrageous utterances over it. Because they don't see it how you can do that. And it's easy to do that.
I get your point.
It's
and you insist that this all did not happen because you were in a powerful position to garner the resource.
Which powerful? I was not even a chairman. I was an acting chairman
of the governing party.
And you know what? Not only governing party. The bank that we dealt with, now I can tell you, the bank does not even belong to, it belongs to the opposition.
Which bank is this?
It's UMB.
I see.
So if people want to say that me or my friends have gone to the bolts of the UMB, twisted their arm together, I'm at a loss. It's a pity. But it can be done. And this country, we in Ghana, as a country, we say we go for a bond, we borrow $10 billion. We can do so. The country. But if you as an individual, you have good representation. If you go and convince a bank, you sitting here, that they should advance money for you that you can pay, and they realize they've got a contract here, you can do it this way, you can do that. Others have done it before, and they give it to you. People say, some even say I should use the money
to buy ambulances.
Ambulances.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Because furthering the interest of the state should be of your bigger interest than that of your political party.
As a private person.
Yes.
The ambulances, you don't make money out of it.
Yeah. If you run an ambulance system in this country today, especially with only 51 functioning.
You tell me what to run. I'm saying,
I can't tell you which business to do, to be fair.
What business to do with?
Yes.
Then I should go and take the money to go and buy ambulances. Because people know good business. Why don't they themselves go and do it?
I see. That's interesting.
They know good business. An ambulance can make money, can fetch money for themselves and for others. Then we should go to the bank and tell the bank that they say this country needs ambulances and they will make more money, so they should advance their money. It's ridiculous, but here we are. And media men sometimes also
we are in October. We are getting to October pretty soon. Yeah. We are in September, end of September. Yes. Will the constituencies receive these buses by the end of this year?
Please leave it to me. The buses are here. At least part of them are here. We were arranging. Today we had a meeting on what to do, how to go about it. If the noise almost made some of the banks that we were dealing with even withdraw.
Oh, okay.
They said because too much noise. Banks don't want people to, they don't want controversies, so they want to shy away from it.
I see.
And people thought that maybe I've gone to pile up the money there and I'm going to do that. So they said, no, look, Mr. Blair, we don't want to, there's too much noise about this. We manage confidence, let's go ahead. It's good for us, it's good for us, it's good for them as well. So please, I don't want even that issue to come up again, become another controversy. And then maybe you will turn around and say you have played for one at that time. Some even said I was buying the votes.
Yes, with a...
Yes, I
but
don't
it was
want to
too coincidental for it to be just,
listen,
what do you call it, mere coincidence.
Let me even put it. Today, or a couple of days ago, I read through the news that the former president, John Dramani Mahama, has said that this time round, the resources for the campaign
will go down. Grounds. It will not be hijacked.
Which resources?
I see resources that the party puts together through donations and the party people's contributions.
He will find resources.
Yes.
The resources were hijacked.
Yes.
Find resources to organize the party. Let's be very realistic. It takes resources to organize. Some even will be in charge of, let's say, the disaster management. And that's what they will use to go and do their campaign. If I say that I'm going to borrow money, if I say that I'm going to help, so that money for them to resource my party so that they will be in a position to organize themselves. And more so when the money will be repaid, because you have enough benefits. You will have revenue from it. You have profit from it.
I see.
To organize ourselves, to manage our organization. And then you say that I'm bribing. How do you go for elections?
But
without resources even to move up and down.
So if you lost the election, what would have happened to the buses? I'm
giving it up. The buses is not that you dashed it.
Yeah.
You make those who are involved in it sign. We've given it up to the people to manage. Some people to manage. When they manage,
so they use for a transportation business. At the constituency level.
We owe the banks. The banks will be paid.
And they'll pay back the money to you?
Of course. To me, not to me. To the banks.
The
profits, they take it. I don't put money into it, so I don't take money out of it.
So there's nothing in this for you? That's what you're saying?
Absolutely. It's a pity.
It doesn't sound altruistic to anybody, because you're a politician. Politicians are not known for altruistic works.
I think you are wrong. I think, where do you go? You see, next to priesthood, so far as I'm concerned, it's service to your nation. It's when you get involved in politics. Some people want to give politics a bad name. Of course, there are good men and bad men involved.
Certainly.
But don't make it look like as if politicians go into politics because they want to line their pocket. Some may do that, but not all of them. At this age, what do you want from it? So you want to make it like if you want to help your people and be happy that you help them. Maybe in helping them along, you may also benefit a little from it. But that doesn't mean you go into it. It's not business. Politics is not business. I don't believe that now Dunan Kufuor don't want to politics because he wants to line his pocket. No, at this stage, what does he want? What does he want?
Chairman, I've run out of time. It's been wonderful engaging you today. We should do this more often.
Well, when the issues are relevant and you want to talk about it.
Yes. Thank you so much for opening your doors to us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, folks, that's where we tie the 9 ribbons of today's edition of UPfront. Thank you for joining us.